I was able to watch the fourth, fifth, and sixth episode of Ironheart over the weekend. Before I get into my thoughts on it, I did want to revisit episode three, specifically the end and one particular character, and that's John, Parker's brother. At the end of episode three, he dies. And one of the things that stuck out to me about John was the character growth and development that we were given throughout the first three episodes. We learned that he takes care of Parker in a variety of ways. He is very protective of his brother. He loves his brother very much. He understands that Parker is going through a lot of pain because of this cloak. He is struggling with what it means to be wearing it. And by that, I mean the effects it's having on him, the magic and the toll that it's taking on his soul and on his body physically. He goes so far as to tattoo over the scars that this magic and this cloak are putting on Parker's body. And he says things to Parker like, I can't keep doing this to you. And I feel as though he means two things by that. One, he can't keep inflicting additional pain on top of what the cloak is doing by covering up all of these tattoos. But he also means he can't keep sitting by and allowing Parker to wear this cloak, knowing that it's doing him harm, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. He sees all of that. We get a flashback of years and years ago where the two of them are breaking into this house. And as soon as Parker gets the safe open, a security guard walks up and he says, Hey, freeze, what are you doing? Parker pulls a gun, the security officer pulls his gun, and Parker freezes. And the security guard is trying to de escalate the situation, but there does come a point where he has to make a decision and he's about to pull the trigger. And we hear a gunshot and it's actually John, who shoots the security officer in the shoulder so that Parker and himself can get away. So he is very protective of his brother, but he isn't so irrational that he's just killing for no reason. That security officer didn't have to die, so he shot him in the shoulder, and then they left. Now we fast forward to the team that Parker has put together and John's role on this team being Parker's right hand man, his number two. And that protection, that love for his brother comes through in pretty much every scene. Each time one of the team members has a question about Parker, about his motives, about where his head is at, John is always there to say, everything's actually fine. And Parker does too. But he's backs up his brother. He says, we're all getting money. We're all on these heists. Everything is going well. We're not hurting anyone. We're doing exactly what we said we were going to do. We're just taking from those in power and transferring it to us because that's what we want. They don't deserve it. We're going to take it from them. That's the mission. And each time it kind of escalates where a member of the team wants to know more and more about Parker, about his powers, about that cloak. And each time John steps in between and says, Don't worry about it. This isn't any of your business. Parker will deal with that, and I will deal with Parker. Well, it kind of escalates even further when one of the members of the team steals this cloak. And this was right after a very successful heist, and everyone has gotten paid. There's a lot of money to go around, and they're kind of having a celebration. They're having a party. And one of the team members, Clown, I believe, she breaks into Parker's room, takes the cloak, and is wearing it. And being very excited that she's got it and wondering what it is and how it works. And she's just having a good time with this fashion show she's putting on with Parker's cloak. Well, John sees her and he says, Give that back. Why do you have his cloak? Where did you get it from? You obviously broke into this room and you stole it. It doesn't belong to you. Give it back. She argues with him. They get into an argument. They're face to face at some point, nose to nose. And Parker grabs Clown's arm and the back of her neck and slams her head onto the counter. So let's not get anything misconstrued here. John is still a violent person. He can resort to physical violence if necessary. He's still a criminal. He's not a good person, is what I'm saying. I understand that. But he is very protective of his brother. And if he feels that he needs to put his hands on someone to get his point across, that's the route he's going to take. That's what they are establishing for this character. John will put his hands on you if he feels like you are a threat to Parker. Okay. At the end of episode 3, after Riri has endangered the entire team, after she has screwed up the mission because she decided to bring in this laser under this synthetic skin that fails immediately, everyone is trying to figure out what's happening. Security is going off and they lose contact. Their comms go down. John is on the roof or a tower with Riri's suit, who he believes is inside. He believes Riri is inside that suit. And as comms have broken out, he says, go find the rest of the team. I'm going to go look for Parker. Well, it's Natalie, of course. She flies away because Riri is in one of the greenhouses still, trying to escape. John, after searching throughout the compound, finds himself in that same greenhouse. The door is open. He finds Riri standing there with a piece of that cloak. And his question is, well, he has a couple of questions. Where's Parker? Why can't I find him? Why do you have a piece of that cloak? The only connection that I can make here, the only conclusion that I can draw is you've done something to Parker because you have a piece of his cloak and he's nowhere to be seen. Whether or not that's rational, that's the line of thinking he has. Riri doesn't say, I didn't kill him. Riri doesn't say, I didn't hurt him. She is only concerned about making sure she can't be caught with this cloak and give up the reason for why she has it and what she's been doing this entire mission instead of the actual mission. Her only goal in this situation is to cover her tracks. Okay? Well, they get into a physical altercation because John needs to know what happened to Parker, and Riri is the only suspect in this situation because of the evidence that is in front of John. He puts his hands on her. They get into a tussle. They fight. But at the same time, the greenhouse is being filled with carbon dioxide because that's one of the measures. So as they are being deprived of oxygen through their fight, they get tired. So much so that they have to rest and they stop fighting because they don't have the energy or the lung capacity anymore. There's nothing left. Well, at this point, as things are about to be very fatal for the both of them, Natalie in Riri's suit shows up. She gets the door open to the greenhouse and has some banter with Riri, asking her if she's okay, asking her what's going on. Riri takes a minute to compose herself, and then she gets into her suit. Now, that's probably 2 minutes. The door is still open. She looks back at John, who is on the ground, gasping for air, and then she backs out of the green room or the greenhouse, looks at John. John tries to get up and run as the door is closing to escape. Riri lets the door close. and leaves John in the greenhouse to suffocate. I mentioned earlier that John dies in episode 3. John is killed. Riri murders John. That's what happened. There was no reason John had to die. They were no longer fighting. She was not in any danger at that point. She was in her suit. She could have grabbed John and taken him out of that complex, out of that greenhouse, and left him outside and flew away. If she was upset about retribution or scared of retribution, she could have flown away and never saw the team again. Of course, none of that matters because for two reasons. Parker wasn't dead. So if she had taken him out of there, they established comms again, and Parker and John reconnected, John could be like, oh, okay. So what was that about? Why were you being weird? All I asked was, where is Parker? Why do you have a piece of his cloak? I can't find him. So you seem to be the last person who was in contact with him. Where is he? What happened? Those were my questions. You wouldn't answer them. So I felt the need to get them out of you. Okay? So now we're back to Riri being afraid of getting caught for doing something she shouldn't have been doing. When, if she had gone back, she would have to fess up to having a piece of this cloak. But that's what caused the entire mission to go bad. And now, because she can't do that, now Parker is going to want to know, why is John dead? Well, John is dead, according to Riri, because he got stuck in the greenhouse. Not because she was the last one to see him. She just flies over, says, oh, I found his body. He's not moving. He's not breathing. There are no vitals. He's gone. Okay. Well, episode 4 begins with Parker being suspicious of John's death and why Riri feels like she might have something to do with it. Not only that, he gets into contact with Ezekiel Stain, who is in jail now because the piece of tech, that synthetic skin that she took on the job, got traced back to him. He got arrested. So he's in jail because she didn't think about whether or not that piece of tech was going to hold up, or she didn't care whether or not it would hold up. Well, Parker visits Zeke in jail and he offers him a position with the team because he can either be free, get broken out, and join him or rot in jail. And Zeke says, why would I want to escape? I can't go back to my life. I can't even go back to my name. I have nothing. And Parker says something that's really interesting. And I'll get more into Parker in a minute. But Parker says, that sounds exciting. He offers Zeke, previously Joe, he offers Zeke a brand new life. He says, you're right. You can't go back to any of that. You get to start over. Come start over with me, and I will give you whatever you want so that you can have whatever you want. And of course, that sounds tempting for Zeke, and he takes them up on it. They bring him in, they bring in all of his tech, and they upgrade him. Essentially, he becomes an android of sorts. Well, as Riri and Parker begin to figure out that one, Riri killed John, and two, Parker might want revenge, Riri begins to freak out. So now her mission is she has to stop Parker from coming after her and her loved ones because he knows that she killed his brother. But that begins her hero arc, which doesn't sit right with me. It feels like it's being built on a fallacy. Why am I supposed to be rooting for her hero arc? Because she's running away from the consequences of something she did. She's not fighting Parker because of some moral ground or an ethical one. It's not good versus evil. Parker is only after her because she killed John. But she's making it out to be Parker is after her because he's evil, because he's bad and he needs to be stopped. But she doesn't want to stop him from robbing people. She doesn't want to stop him from the heists that they're going on. From what we know, he's only killed one person, and that's Stewart. Well, at the end of episode 3, he does have to kill several people, Parker does, because of Riri, though. Had the mission gone successfully, no one had to die in that situation either. The only reason it went bottoms up is because the security measures got triggered and Parker got trapped, and he only had one instance or one route to take. He had to start killing everybody. So he does, when pushed into a corner, he's still a bad guy, he's still a villain. Yeah, he kills some people. But that wasn't the plan. That's not what he wanted to do. He doesn't want to kill people, but he will. And if he's under the influence of that cloak, maybe that cloak says you need to murder these people so that you can get away. And that's what happened. But again, that wasn't the plan. So she's not fighting good versus evil. She's not fighting any ethical rules. She's just protecting herself from someone who wants revenge for something she did. She is fighting someone who wants revenge for something she did. That's her hero arc. Now, that's episode 4 in a nutshell. Episode 5 kind of takes a turn. With episode 5, we get introduced to a couple of other characters, and they are Zelma Stanton and her mother. Now, in the comics, Zelma Stanton is a sorceress. She worked and studied under Doctor Strange. She knows who Wong is, and she's a master of the mystical arts, or she becomes one in the comics anyway. And we get that in the show. She's on her way. She knows magic, so does her mom, and she casts some spells, she has some rituals. She seems very interesting. The character they've given us on screen is very good as far as her backstory, what she can do, the knowledge that she has. She is very good. But what throws a wrench in that is how we get to her. Well, we get to her because Riri needs to fight magic with magic, quote unquote, because she's analyzed this piece of Parker's cloak and she's compared it to every other piece of technology that she can think of. Every mineral on Earth, every element, she can't tell what this thing is because her lab is so sophisticated that she has all the information to compare this cloak to whatever is known to Earth. And she says, well, if it's not natural, then it must be supernatural. I need magic. So she goes to her mom, and her mom is into crystals and readings and the kind of rituals that help with personal healing and things like that. Well, that equates to actual magic for Riri, and Riri's mom takes her to the stands, their shop that kind of deals with those things, but it turns out they are actual sorceresses as well. So Riri leverages the fact that her mom does have this connection to magic and says, take me to this shop, introduce me to these people, or reintroduce me to these people. She hasn't seen them since having been back. So they get into the explanation of what this cloak might be, where it came from, and what kind of magic it actually is. It turns out it's from the dark dimension. There's connections to Dormammu, and Zelma and her mom get frightened because of the type of magic that it is, because it's uncontrollable and they don't know what to do with it. The actual best thing to do with it is just get out of my shop and take this somewhere else because I don't need this here. You're in a lot of trouble and you need to deal with it, but we can't help you. We don't even have the power to do that. We've identified it, we've told you the dangers. Now take it back. Give it back to wherever you got it. Take it back from wherever you got it. So, as they were leaving that shop, Riri and her mom have a conversation, kind of a half heart to heart. And Riri kind of opens up, I will admit. Her mom gets upset with her because she thought when she reached out and said, hey, I need help, teach me or give me more information about magic. I think that's what I'm up against. Her mom genuinely thought she was coming to her for help, but she really just wanted her connection to the Stantons. And her mom says to her, why can't you ever come to me? You went to Gary, but you would never talk to me. You never needed my help. Why is that? And Riri gets upset. She says, why is it that every time we have an argument, you bring up Gary? Why is it that you can't accept that I am going through something and my way of going through it is different than yours? My struggle with this is different than yours. You can't accept that. So I'm just going to go. Now, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with her grieving in her own way. That was very good. I'm glad they said that. But it still feels petulant because we still haven't gotten a glimpse into what she is doing to cope, how she is grieving. And that comes up later in this episode. But as of right now, and the 3 episodes prior, it still doesn't feel as though you've earned what that means. And I am not going to take your word for it that that's what's going on. She flies off from here and goes to Zeke's hideout, his bunker, and breaks in. She was originally intending to forcefully break in, have Natalie in her suit blow the door down. She got this man arrested and thought, oh, let me break into his bunker now and use up all of his tech because he can't use it. He's in jail. To be fair, she does visit him in jail to apologize and then ask for help and then say, oh, I plan to get you out of here. Just trust me. And that was it. There was no follow up. I mean, by the time she even has an opportunity to make good on that promise, Parker has already broken him out. So she says that, and then a few scenes later, he's out because he talked to Parker already. And Parker convinced him that Riri is probably not good for him or the team or anyone. And that's why Zeke joins up. But she is in Zeke's bunker now, trying to still figure out how to at least destroy this cloak. And she goes through a lot of different methods. She tries force, she tries to blow it up, she tries acid, she tries freezing it, she tries a lot of different things to try to destroy this cloak. None of it works. And she finds herself exhausted. She doesn't know what to do at this point. She's very frustrated and she's very afraid. She's afraid that Parker is going to do harm to her family and to her. And she has a panic attack and she doesn't know what to do. So she flies off. And at the same time, she is trying to get Natalie to leave her alone too. The same conversation that she had with her mom about dealing with her grief, she's having with Natalie, and Natalie is trying to calm her down, but Riri says, "Stop trying to do that. I can't breathe. I don't know what to do. I'm scared, and you're not helping." So they land because she needs to get out of the suit. She's feeling claustrophobic. Natalie leaves her there to give her space and brings in Xavier, her pseudo best friend. We get a little bit more backstory between the two of them as well in this episode. And Xavier freaks out because he, for the first time, sees Natalie. And he has an issue with this AI pretending to be a real person. He has an issue with Riri, quote unquote, bringing her back to life, but it isn't really her. She isn't honoring Natalie's memory by capturing her in this technology just to be around her. He doesn't feel like that's something she should do. And the argument about whether or not Natalie is real comes up again between the three of them. Riri, Xavier, and Natalie are all trying to figure out whether or not it's okay to call this AI alive. And that continues through the sixth episode as well. After this encounter, Riri does calm down just a bit and she meets up again with Zelma. They're at this diner or coffee shop. Simultaneously, Parker has sent his team to take out Riri. Before they get there, Zelma goes into more detail about the mystic arts, about Doctor Strange, about Dormammu, and all the magic that she might be up against with Parker. And somehow, Riri doesn't know who Doctor Strange is. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. It's very strange. She doesn't know a key member in the fight with Thanos. Now, I think this might be the first MCU related project where they don't mention the snap or the blip. I may be wrong there, but they didn't mention any of that in the entire first season. So maybe that's could be an explanation as to why she doesn't know. She's not really read up on all of the things that happened because of Infinity War and Endgame. I don't know, but she doesn't know who Doctor Strange is. So she gets filled in by Zelma and all of the mystical arts that she will have to contend with Parker. The team shows up and they kick everyone out of the diner because they're not trying to kill anyone else except for Riri on the orders of Parker because Riri killed John. I'm going to keep saying that. She manages to fight each member of this team and escape. She's able to hold her own without the suit, without any other weapons aside from the environmental weapons within the diner. And it's very cartoonish, if I'm going to be honest, especially the siblings whose main character definition within the show are they're street fighters, they're underground fighters. And throughout the show, we see them beating up scores of people, yet they can't take on Riri Williams. I found that strange. But she's able to tussle with all of these people and she makes it out of the diner, only to come up against Zeke, who has upgraded himself. He kind of feels like Doctor Doom, if I'm being honest. He shoots lightning out of his hands. He again is an android type. He's got enhanced strength, and he disables her suit. He rips the suit apart, and he's about to kill her. Except there's still a piece of him who doesn't want to be like his dad. So he tells her, "You need to leave. Never show your face again. Because if Parker realizes that you're alive, it's not going to be good for either of us. Please just go." Well, one of the members of the team is standing outside the diner and sees that interaction. Neither of the two of them see them, but she sees that Zeke lets Riri go. She takes that information back to the hideout or the team, and they're all reminiscing about how Riri is now out of their hair because Zeke has lied to Parker. He says, "I killed her. It's done." Parker becomes skeptical because that's literally all that Zeke says is, "I've killed her. No other details are needed. She is gone now." Well, Clown, the one who saw this happen, embellishes the story, hams it up, and says Zeke knocked a building on top of her or something to that effect. Now, it isn't necessarily clear why she did that because the very next scene, she's asking Parker, why did he kill Stewart? Stewart is the technician that Riri replaced after he fumbled their first job in the first episode. Parker killed him probably because he was a loose end or that he disappointed everybody, endangered the team, so he needed to go. We don't really get an explanation as to why he was killed. We know that he died. The show actually doesn't tell us it was Parker who did it, but once confronted, he doesn't deny it. He also doesn't say I did it either. He just says, in response to Clown asking, "Did you do it and why?" "I have nothing to hide." That's all he says. But the inference is he killed Stewart, and for those reasons. At this point, the team leaves Parker. Well, it's kind of mutual. They turn on him because he killed Stewart. And he says, "Okay, you guys can leave then." And then they get confused because he didn't put up a fight, I guess. They're not confused that he killed Stewart. They're more confused that he's willing to let them just walk out after all the time that they had spent together, being a family, quote unquote. That's what they're confused about. I thought that was weird. But either way, they leave. And now It's just Parker by himself. He, though, finds Zeke and he says, "You're going to be my right hand man now." And Zeke says, "No, I'm not doing that. The only thing that we agreed on was I was supposed to kill Riri. She's dead. I'm going to leave now." Well, the upgrade that Zeke was given allows Parker control over his body. They overwrote the code. It was supposed to be, of course, Zeke with that administrative control over his system. They tweaked it, gave that control to Parker. So now Parker, under voice command, can tell Zeke what to do. And essentially, he says, "You're going to stay right here." Parker finds out that Riri is still alive and essentially is creating a plan to go after her with Zeke's help. First, though, Parker needs one more signature to complete his heist of all of the resources that will make him rich, respected, and the leader of and controller of wealth and power in the city. He goes to this mansion, the same mansion from the flashback that he and his brother had robbed earlier in the season. And it turns out it's his dad's mansion. It turns out that their dad kicked him out of the house because he was a troubled kid. He never wanted Parker, so he kicked him out of the house and deprived him not only of his father and his mother and his family, but of the money he would probably have inherited from his dad. So he goes back to this house, forces his dad to sign over control of his businesses and the house. He kicks his dad out of the house and takes over that mansion and that business. He now controls, along with all of the other CEOs he shook down, a major part of the commerce around the city and presumably the country. While he's there, he has Zeke with him because, again, Zeke is his pet, essentially. So they go back and forth, and Zeke says to Parker, "You look ridiculous. What is it that you're even doing? You don't belong here. You're wearing that ridiculous cloak. You actually don't even look like you earned any of this. When people see you, they're going to know this isn't yours." So at this point, Parker decides, you know what? That's fine. I need to go and get Riri anyway. Let's go. Riri is back at home with her family, and they are trying to rebuild her suit after it was destroyed by Zeke. And Riri again opens up a little bit more about what she's going through, what she's struggling with. And we finally get to hear her say that the suit, she needs it so that she can protect people. She feels inadequate because she was unable to do anything about her dad and Natalie getting gunned down. She no longer wanted to be in that situation, nor did she want anyone else to be in that situation. So she built that suit so that she could protect people from now on. We finally get to hear her say that. My issue, though, is it feels like these two things are happening independently of each other. We're getting two stories. One, the arc for Ironheart and the arc for Riri Williams. And that's going to make a little bit more sense once I get to the end of episode 6. But for now, they finally brought it up. But because it hasn't been tethered to her hero arc until now, it feels out of place. And it's very strange. And it goes further because at this point, Riri still feels like a failure because she is unable to get her suit the way that she wants it. Her tech isn't turning out how she envisioned it. She needs a lot of different power sources. She needs to be able to defend against this magic, but what it takes to defend against that magic, she doesn't have the resources for. Well, in her lowest moment, Natalie shows her a memory. And it's a memory of Riri and her dad when she is a child. And it's just a heartfelt moment of them just dancing and singing together. And it shows us at a very young age that she was very creative. She had a lot of ingenuity to her. She was very curious about things and she was already building things. She was a tinkerer at 7 or 8. We were shown that. And it kind of let Riri know, hey, yes, the memory of this place is bad. But when you try to suppress bad memories, you also end up suppressing memories worth holding on to. That was also very good. Natalie says this to Riri. I thought that was an amazing line of dialogue. So, episode 5 tries to put us on the path of Riri's hero arc. It really tries to put in some character work for Riri. But again, it feels like it's rushed and it feels like it's happening too late and too far removed from her actual Ironheart story. So Zelma finally says, why don't we integrate some magic into your suit? Maybe that's the answer. You literally have to fight magic with magic. And this magic can also be that energy source that you're looking for to power the suit. So as they begin integrating that magic into Riri's suit, Natalie gets erased. Her AI and the magic aren't compatible, which means one of them has to go, which means Natalie gets deleted. And all of Riri's efforts to back her up, put her on a flash drive, put her on her laptop, put her anywhere else besides the suit that doesn't have room for her, it fails. So she loses Natalie again. So now Riri's motivation is not only to stop Parker from trying to kill her to get revenge because she killed John, it's to figure out how to stop him so that she can take control of that magic and undo the magic having deleted Natalie. All right. So she builds this suit out of her dad's old car that she had been working on in the first episode. We get to see it again in the memory we were just seeing or just shown. So that car becomes a piece of her and the suit. As we get to episode 6, we get to showdowns, and there are a couple of them. Riri fights Zeke again because she needs to know where Parker is. But Zeke is programmed to protect Parker from anyone who wants to hurt him. That fight goes something like this. Do you remember when Natasha, as Black Widow, hits Clint Barton over the head in the first Avengers movie to free him from control over Loki's scepter? Well, Riri kicks Zeke in the groin so that he has a hard reboot. And once he does, he will have control over the system again. That's the first thing that I thought of when that scene played out. And it was just as ridiculous in as it was in the Avengers movie. But yeah, that's how they did it. Kicked him in the groin, and now he's free of this mind control. Now she gets to go fight Parker. They have a pretty cool fight scene as far as aesthetics go, but it was very low stakes because, of course, Parker isn't going to kill her. So we know that. But what does happen, though, is she gets the cloak from Parker, and we see Parker writhing in pain on the floor because the suit has done so much damage to him and his body. Without it, he is starting to lose even more of himself. And it hurts even more now, even without having the cloak on. But we just leave him there on the floor in pain. So we don't know if he's dead, is the point that I'm making there. She, after this fight, then goes downstairs because they're on top of a diner. And she sees a man that Parker has been talking to throughout this episode, actually, episode 6. And what Parker has been saying to him is, why haven't you kept up your end of the deal? This man is the one who gave the cloak to Parker. We get another flashback of Parker running away from the cops when they were leaving the house in that first episode. We get the extended flashback of what happened. He runs into this mysterious figure who opens up this portal to this diner to have a sit down chat with him. And he says, give me your soul, basically, and I will give you the tools for you to obtain anything that you want. And what Parker wants is to just be rich, basically. And he ties that to respect and power. But when it really comes down to it, the man talking to him says, hey, don't play around. What do you want? You want to be rich? Just say that. And that's fine. So Parker does say, hey, I want to be rich. What does it cost? And the man says, nothing that you're going to miss. Parker accepts the deal. The man gets up and he says, Parker does, hey, you're forgetting something. And it's the cloak. And the man says, you know what? It's yours. And he puts it on him. And that's how he gets this cloak. Well, this same man offers this same deal to Riri. But the offer that he's framed it goes back to something that happened in the first episode, where Riri tries to say she feels as though she's made to be small, that she isn't being heard, that she is underappreciated. He brings that back again and says, I can give you the tools to make that feeling go away. I can make you something more so that people do see you, do appreciate you. You aren't small. He brings back that argument. And throughout the conversation, Riri tries to get a feel for who this person is. And the reveal, he says, my name is Mephisto. Amazing. Mephisto and that interjection is exactly what it needed to be. But now we're back to Riri and her decision making. Because throughout the conversation, what she can only think about is Natalie. And Mephisto picks up on that. He doesn't say anything, but he nods because the conversation that they're having is not only out loud, but it's also mental. So as he is fishing through her mind and her thoughts, he picks up on, oh, okay, you miss Natalie. I could give that to you. He doesn't say it, but he insinuates it through his facial expressions. And that is intercut with scenes of Riri in her garage talking to Natalie, saying things like, I finally figured it out. I've been playing around with this tech. I've been running all these processes, and you're back now. I've got something that I needed to say to you, and I've been wanting to say to you for a long time. And we go back to the diner, the two of them having this conversation, having these negotiations about whether or not she should give into Mephisto's deal. We go back to her in the garage, and she says to Natalie, hey, could you please run diagnostics? Natalie looks at her like, what are you talking about? Why would you say something? That's weird. How do I run diagnostics? What does that mean? Riri looks back at her. What do you mean? I need you to run diagnostics. Why are you confused? Natalie presses her palm against Riri's forehead and says, is everything okay? Are you feeling well? And then Riri looks confused for a split second. She doesn't understand what's happening, but then she accepts it and she hugs Natalie. Then we cut back to the diner and we see her shaking Mephisto's hand. She accepted the deal. We flip back to her hugging Natalie and we see those scars that were all over Parker creeping up Riri's forearm. And now that's the end of season 1. So, Riri is still making bad decisions. It doesn't feel like Riri has learned anything. It doesn't feel like Riri is on any kind of hero's journey. The only way that this makes sense to me is if these 6 episodes were only to tell us the things that are wrong with Riri. Not only her flaws as a person, but also what she's struggling with and how she's dealing with it. We've spent 5 hours, more than 5 hours, with Riri, and she isn't on any kind of hero's journey yet. We don't know what she stands for. We don't know what she's willing to fight for. Every decision that she's made thus far has been a selfish one. The hero arc, if we're supposed to believe that she's on one, was built on a fallacy. Her main conflict, if Parker is that main conflict, is because of something she did, a choice she made that she didn't have to make. She wanted to know about this cloak. And then that is what put everything into motion that led to her conflict with Parker and then her meeting with Mephisto. Now, the next time we see Riri, it won't be in a season 2, it's going to be in a movie. That movie is going to have to dedicate a significant amount of time to build Riri back up. If that is the plan, I will accept that because I do see an opportunity for that to be the case. Because again, that's the only thing that makes sense. That's the only thing. That's the only reason why we would get 5 hours of this character who has more negative qualities than positive ones, who doesn't feel like a hero after those 5 hours. If the next time we see her, the point is that we begin to rebuild and confront the things that she's gone through in these first 6 episodes, that would be interesting. I would be curious to see how they do that. But she needs to be confronted with the fact that she killed John. The show tries to say it was self defense. And maybe I am missing something, but I don't see how that's self defense. If, again, if I've misunderstood that, let me know. But that doesn't feel like self defense to me. She needs to confront the fact that she got herself kicked out of all of these schools. And then she needs to confront the fact that she doesn't reach out to those who are definitely prone to helping her. They make a joke about her reaching out to Shuri and Wakanda to try to get help. But at that point, she's already done all of these terrible things. And that's how Riri frames the conversation. She says, "Hey, Shuri, what's up? I've done all these terrible things. Could you help me rebuild my suit?" And then she imitates Shuri, and it's just her hanging up. There's a lot that Riri needs to reconcile from these first 6 episodes. I'm not even sure that she's reconciled with the trauma and the grief of having losing her dad and Natalie. Obviously, that's not true. I mean, obviously, she hasn't because she allowed herself to succumb to Mephisto and his deal so that she could have Natalie back. We're not on her hero's journey yet. And I accept that if that's the plan. If it continues to be glossed over, that she doesn't have to come to terms with any of the decisions that she's made, then that will be a problem. So the next time we see her again, it's got to give us more insight into the type of hero she's going to be. Because we haven't seen Ironheart over these first 6 episodes. And I'm beginning to feel as though that was intentional. So Riri needs to become Ironheart over however much time we have left in her story. Hopefully, we get there.